And let me know if we aren't seeing that. And Allison, I don't think I can see the chat now. So if you want to keep an eye on that for me, that would be awesome.
Yep, I can see your screen and I will keep an eye on the chat.
Perfect. Cool. All right. So just a couple things to go over until some questions pop in. A lot of people have been asking lately how to use different names in templates. You don't have to use one specific name. You can have multiple names. And to do that, you would just pop over here into the template manager and choose template settings. And then here you'll see you can have multiple options. You can remove the options as well. We use Fast Offer Denver. When we do text, looks like we add another in there, FO Miami. So you can have as many as you want there. You can also change the nicknames if you want. You can use your first name and enable it to, be your Sherpa name, or you can toggle that off and choose any nicknames that you'd like as well. So this is where you can add and save those. Another new-ish feature that has kind of gotten brought up quite a bit, the lead stages. So you can now reorder your lead stages. It's really simple. You just go into your account settings and choose lead stages. And it's as simple as dragging and dropping. As soon as you hover over any lead stage, you'll see the little 3-line stacked hamburger icon, and you can just drag and drop those however you want. So the more frequently used lead stages you might want at the top, for less clicking when you're in a prospect page. So this is where you can go and organize those to whatever order you want. Also, obviously, we can add new lead stages here as well.
I'll jump in, Amber.
Yeah.
Going back to the multiple company names in a template, can you just show what it looks like when you're actually creating the template and how to select the company name you want to use?
Oh, yeah. Good thought. So if you're creating a new template and you type your message, hi, first name, so on and so forth. Once you get to the company name, and I actually screwed that up because I deleted I'm not sure why it was this, but we'll keep it. So you could say, hi, first name, blah, 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 blah. Here on the company name, when you go to select it, you'll see this little arrow icon to drop down. And so you can choose which name you want to use. So it's either going to be company name 0 or company name 1, depending on which one you want to use. And obviously, the more names you have, the more options you'll have, and you can choose that every time a template's created. So cool little feature there. Definitely recommended if you do have multiple company names to switch that up in your templates. You might as well use what you have. Let's see here. Back to the lead stages, another cool way to, quickly add or edit a lead stage. If you're in a prospect page, so let's say you're sending a message to somebody and you want to give them a lead stage that maybe you don't necessarily have yet. Over here, when you click on the prospect page, you'll see this drop down. Right now, it's just response received, but you can add or edit these, on the go by clicking that little blue link. Right now, we only have one custom lead stage here. It's the nurture. So it's going to give me the option to actually edit the one that I already have, or I can add a brand new one here with the title and the description. And you can also mark it as active or inactive as you create it from this page as well. So if you don't necessarily need the lead stage right away, but maybe, you're in a prospect page and it makes you think of one that you want to add, you can go ahead and add it real quick, but it doesn't necessarily need to be active. So this is where you can add those pretty much instantly from any prospect page.
Yeah, and just on the active, inactive, we've done that so that you can't delete it, because if you've already set prospects to that lead stage, we don't want you to delete it because then they'll be left without one. So instead, we just mark it as inactive. So all of those prospects still have that lead stage. However, it won't be on your little selection menu going forward if you're not using it anymore.
Good to know. Awesome. All right. So while we're in the prospect, in the campaign, I should say, going to go ahead and look at the metrics here. I know that we've been stressing best practices quite a bit since all the carrier changes have happened. So just to kind of run over those again, in regards to batches, we want to make sure, and this campaign is probably not the best example. It is a little bit older. But now with all their carrier restrictions, we want to make sure that our batches are being spread out a little bit more farther apart than maybe they were in the past. So we recommend going in and sending a batch out of 100 and then coming here, clicking on prospects and messages and responding to any of those new messages that come through, and then going back and sending another batch of 100. This will give you some time while you're responding to the messages to break up the batches, from hopefully a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes. We've seen pretty decent delivery rates with that time frame in between each batch. So if we could just space those out a little bit, that's going to be the first step. Obviously, the next thing is templates. This is a super important thing when it comes to best practices and getting high delivery rates. We want to make sure that our templates don't have any spammy words or language. There, is not an exclusive list. We've shared the list that we've come up with some basic, obvious words a few times, I'm sure, on these Q&A webinars, but it's kind of a common sense type of game. We don't want to use the word cash offer. That's something that's going to stand out to the carrier and look like spam. Even the word investor, I think, is one that we are avoiding. There's, a lot of words that probably won't get caught sometimes, and then maybe other times they will. So you kind of have to play a little game of, taking a look at your templates and the delivery rates and seeing what's working and what's not working and go from there. Another thing, you want to text with confidence. You don't want to, question if you're texting the right person, or, ask if, you've reached the right person. You don't want to ask any types of question that would make it look like you don't know who you're texting. So you want to text with confidence that you actually know the person. And one template that I like to use as an example, really acting like you know the person, you actually drove by the property. It could be something like, hi, first name. I'll create it here just so that we can kind of see. Hi, first name. Just drove by your house on street address and it looks great. This is, really showing the carrier that we actually know this person. I'm looking for another project in city. Do you have a minute to discuss? And then obviously we need to put in our company name, something like that. So this would be a good type of template that is probably safe. And like I said, we don't always know. So you want to watch the delivery rates, but this would be a suggestion for a template, that doesn't have any spammy words, that's confident, makes it act, seem like the person on a personal level. And yeah, so
Yeah,
that
I'll
is
just
one
put it
example.
like an asterisk on that example. When you're creating templates, just make sure they are unique to your account. So now if everybody, sees this template, we're just giving you an example so that kind of how to think about it. How to approach creating templates. Carriers want to know that you're contacting somebody that you already know, that you're confident that you're contacting the right person, that you're not saying, hi, is this Amber? That it just looks like phishing, and carriers are gonna mark that as spam. So we just want you to think about it the right way, but don't go create that exact template, because if all accounts are using that, then the repetition spam filters come into play, which is the easiest thing for them to mark as spam. So take that just with the advice of how to think about creating your templates, but don't use the exact one, because then everybody else will be thinking about those. And I'll put another asterisk just on our template manager. And I'm sorry, Amber.
No, please.
I've told Amber she can host this webinar, and I just always barge in here. But on our template manager, if you guys are new, if you've attended a few Q&A webinars, you probably are aware of this. But if you're new and just seeing this for the first time, we're truthfully not doing too much active texting in Denver anymore. We're very focused on the software, and Jason's pulled back from real estate investing a little bit. He's still doing some stuff on the side, but that's why when you see our template manager here, we don't have all these delivery rates and response rates, because these are recent features we added into the system. We don't have that much data happening in our actual account to get these. We have another account that we test with that's separate from this, but this one that we use for webinars, we don't have this data. So if you're looking at this wondering, why don't they have any delivery rates, or why don't they have any response rates? It's because we haven't been very active in this specific account recently. And the other thing that is appended to this whole asterisk kind of statement is that when Amber was showing the content and some of these messages that are already created, don't take those as an example either, because yeah, exactly, this first one, it was actually created like years ago. And because we're not doing as much active texting in this account recently, there's things here that we could actually pick out and say, don't include this. Are you interested in an offer? That's getting flagged as spam. Yeah, and just the word purchasing could be getting us flagged as spam. So there's things in here that I often use in Zoom calls and things as examples of not to do, and it's why we also keep them in here for webinars. But just make sure you're thinking about creating templates in the right way and questioning what you're putting in there, because it all comes down to, you know, the message can leave Sherpa, but does it get through the carriers? And that's why we need to really focus on how we're creating these text messages.
Yeah. And just to kind of top that off, if anybody wants to set up an account review, we are happy to do so, and we can go over the templates that you've already created one-on-one. We can create some templates together. You know, if you're having trouble coming up with the wording, or if your delivery rates aren't as great as you'd like them to be, we're happy to jump on a Zoom call, you know, where we can have some one-on-one template time, if you will. So we're happy to do that as well. All right. So with the templates, I think that's good. And I'm glad, Allison, you brought that up about the delivery rate, because whenever I'm in here, I'm always like, well, none of these are showing and they probably think it's not working, but yeah, we just don't text. So that's why there's nothing here. For billing, a lot of people don't realize, but you can come into this billing information tab within your account settings and see the billing history. Again, this is not a great account to give the example in, obviously, because we're not billing ourselves on this account, but you can see everything here from skip trace to your monthly subscription. You know, if you have an upload fee, if you go over your uploads, you're going to see that information here as well. You're going to see the billing date along with your next bill date, the billing amount, how many uploads you have for the month, and how many you have remaining. So this is a good tool if you're wondering, you know, how many uploads you have left. If you're about to upload a big file that you think you might go over, you can kind of get an idea here. Obviously, when you do upload a big file, you're going to get a notification of what your charge may be, but you can get an idea of what you're at for the month on this billing information tab. And then obviously you can always come in here and update your payment methods as well automatically without having to, you know, deal with support. So this is a very important tab that I think gets overlooked sometimes. But yeah, that is right in your account settings. All right, on the Verizon topic, we're still working towards something that we can hopefully have a workaround for Verizon. In the meantime, Verizon does not count against your upload limit. You know, they're still queued up, but they are skipped in the campaign. In the new, well, I guess it's not new, but in the metrics section, if we come in here and we download the mobile file that's been uploaded to the campaign, you'll see over here we can download all the mobile numbers that were imported. Anything that was skipped, and again, this is probably a bad one to show because it's kind of big, so it takes a second to show. Carrier skips 26. So here, if you download the mobile file, there's going to be a column. I can't remember the exact name of the column off the top of my head, but there's a skip column, and it's going to give you the skip reason for every skipped prospect in this campaign. And it's going to say carrier, Verizon, skip. So if you want to, you know, filter that column to reach out to all your Verizon prospects that were skipped, you know, by cold call, or if you have another way of reaching out, you can still get in touch with those Verizon numbers. So they are queued up and skipped, but you can see what specific numbers those are here in this metrics tab. Another one that I feel I have gotten this quite a bit lately is the prospect relay. So prospect relay will connect all communication with the connected prospect to your personal device, and you'll receive the messages straight to your phone, a phone call, directly from Sherpa. So if you need to jump off of your computer and you still want to be in contact with a hot lead, you can set up a relay. So to do that, you would just go here into the prospect page, click the little hamburger icon. You'll probably want to mark them as qualified, obviously, because they're hot. And then here on the relay, you're going to select relay. You can select the user that you want the number to go to, or the messages to go to. And like I said, they'll receive the text to their phone with the number to continue any conversation that was going on your computer. Let's
And
see.
calls as well. Calls you
Yeah.
can connect, and then to place a call to the prospect using the same Sherpa phone number. So you're calling from your actual phone software, but it will relay, and to them it will show as this, what Amber's highlighting here, the Sherpa phone number. So to them, they don't see any difference, but you're calling from your personal device. They can call you as well, and it will come to your personal device. So it's great for hot leads that we want to stay on top of. We don't want to miss a beat just because we're not in the Sherpa platform. Everything will come direct to your phone. But to place that call out to them and make sure that your number is masked, that your personal phone number is not going to show up, you need to call the number you receive the text message from. So you're going to receive, when you hit relay, you're going to receive a message that says this relay has been connected, and it gives some prospect information. In the message itself, it gives the prospect's phone number. Don't click that and call it. If you want to call them, click the number you received the text message from, and that will relay through the relay feature, versus if you just click directly on the prospect's phone number, that will just call as a normal phone call, and it's not going to mask your number. So just make sure you're doing that in the proper way, and you're calling the phone number that you received the text message thread from.
Yeah, good point. And each user can have a maximum of 100 relay connections at a time. So obviously, when the lead becomes inactive or it's cold, you want to remove it from the relay system, so that you can have new connections. Also, you probably don't want connections if it's not a hot lead. You don't want random messages coming to your phone. So you want to make sure that you can remove those when they go cold.
Yeah, and where you can see all of those connected in one place is also in your account settings. So if you're not sure who you have connected, so you can't find the prospect page, you can come here, click on your user, and then it will give you, right now we only have I only have one under mine just as an example, but exactly, it will show you all of the relays. And then if you click the little ellipsis, you'll have the option to disconnect.
Awesome. All right. Oh, it looks like a question did pop in. That was good timing. Is there anything else that could affect delivery rates, or is it just template quality? That's a good question. I think the templates are the most important thing, and also I would say the volume, the amount of messages going out in the time frame. So like we said, breaking up those batches so that the volume isn't so high. Obviously, if you're sending out 1,000 messages in 1 minute, that's going to stand out. So breaking up those batches is definitely something that affects the delivery rate. But yeah, template quality, I think, is the biggest thing. Another thing that is important is to check on your phone numbers in your number manager. We want to make sure that our phone numbers are in good health. If you get marked as spam and your numbers get blocked, and some of your numbers get into, I don't know if we have any. Okay, so we have some moderate here. If they turn to moderate or poor, this is also going to affect your delivery rate. You want to make sure that your health is good. If you do get a number that starts to decline in health, you can come over here and click on the ellipsis and deactivate that number. Basically what this does is it will keep your number intact with your account, but it's basically going to cool it off, so it's not sending out any more messages. So hopefully you can build that health back up to be good again, because once that hits, moderate is okay. You can probably build it back up pretty easily, but once it hits poor, you're definitely going to want to deactivate, let it cool off, see if you can build that health up. If you can't, and it just won't build up, you might just have to release the number. Keep in mind, if you release the number, you will never receive a text message to that number again. So you want to make sure that it's a number that you haven't sent texts out from recently, just in case someone responds to you. But you would need to release the number and then purchase new numbers. So each market comes with 30 phone numbers. The more numbers you have, the better. You're more than welcome to add new numbers without releasing. So if you have one market and you want to have 50 or 60 numbers, obviously that's going to help with your delivery rate as well, because you're going to be rotating through numbers more often and the same phone numbers won't be getting used.
And the other benefit of adding new numbers, so right, definitely for delivery rates, the more numbers, the better. But the other thing is that we get lots of people asking how to increase their daily send limit. The daily send limit is completely related to how many numbers you have on your account, because each number has its own daily send limit of 99 messages per day. So the more numbers you add, the higher your daily send limit is. So if you're constantly hitting that daily send limit, it's causing you to kind of stop in your tracks in the middle of the day, come to your number manager, add new numbers. They're only $1 per number per month, and truthfully, it's worth it to have as many numbers as possible.
Yeah.
Sasha also does have a question. You can unmute Sasha. I don't think you've made me co-host, correct? No.
Oh, sorry about that. Let's see.
Well, you can just unmute Sasha and then.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, you can hear me. Hello, Amber. Hello, Alison. So it's kind of complicated, but it's easier to explain you just in 30 seconds. So what I really needed, and I don't know how to do in the best way, and I wanted to hear your opinion about it. So when we were switching templates and trying to make our carriers satisfied and fulfill all demands that they brought in front of us and everything. So in between, I got some 150 altogether messages that are left now being for the moment. They are kept in my campaigns at the status that I cannot respond them anymore, because the initial message that I sent, those are all conversations that lasted longer, for weeks or even for months. Yeah. So if I started conversation by the previous rules and not complying with the later rules, then this conversation is stopped and it's not allowed to continue it. So I have in different geographies, in different campaigns, in different periods, I have something at least 150 such conversations that I'm stuck with them. And at least 100 of these 150 are good ones that we were stuck because I was waiting that the customer comes back from somewhere, or that he needs to fulfill something else, and then we will talk about sales or whatever. But it was quite active and quite valuable for me. I think not more than 50 were just deliberately exited by customer by pressing stop or something like that. So at least 100 are really valuable, but I cannot communicate with these people anymore. So what I did is that I created another template, another status next to follow up. I created another one that is called follow up cannot be reached or something like that. And now I kept all those 150 people in this follow up cannot be reached status. And I don't know how to turn this. I can, for example, I can export all those 150 lists, but I don't want to reach them all at once with one unified template message or whatever message. I would like to personalize texting to them. If I cannot do it with texting, it's better for me to squeeze those 150 people out and to give them to sales department to give them a call, personalized call to each one of them. I don't know how to do that. I don't know if other people have those problems, but many because of the carrier changes later on, many messages got stuck. Some of them were really positive ones.
I understand.
Yes, please,
I think
please advise, please.
It sounds like they're probably Verizon numbers, because if it's actually blocking you from responding and says this carrier is no longer accepting messages at this time in the text field, it means they're Verizon, and it doesn't even matter if you have opt-out language or anything. They're not
Yes.
going to accept your text message. So unfortunately, Verizon has stopped accepting all text messages. We are trying to work toward a solution with the carrier, and that's still pending. And so in the meantime, we've stopped counting Verizon against the upload limit, but they still have prospect pages. And so you can access them and you can use Sherpa to call them. So if you click that call prospect button on their prospect page, you can call them, but we can't send them a text. Even though you've created new templates that meet the requirements, Verizon is still just a no-go. They don't care that you have a company name or an opt-out language. They're just not accepting anything. So we can't send them a text message. You can export that list. If you notice on the side of our navigation, we no longer have a prospect search tab, and that's because this thing with a sparkle on the side, nobody else has this just yet, but it's something that we are very close to releasing, that we've been working on for a long time. So if you guys have noticed, we haven't done too many updates in what you have in your Sherpa account lately. It's because we've been working toward this large feature. And so it actually has replaced prospect search on our tab. But if you go to your prospect search tab, so on the side, it's the magnifying glass, you can filter to the lead stage that you created. It's not here, Amber. We don't.
Oh, I was like, that was weird.
We've replaced it with this new feature. But if you go to the prospect search tab and expand your lead stage drop down, if you've created that specific lead stage to identify them, you can just check that off, click apply, and it will bring up all the prospects who have this specific lead stage, and then just export that list to give to your sales team to give them a call.
Yes. Yes, that's okay. Yeah. So tell me, are you also making the list of things that we ask on the webinar? So you can. Last time we discussed this issue about the health of inactive phones. Do we have any response in the meantime, or whom should I address? That is also something that is bothering me. I cannot repair telephone health anymore, and I could have done that in the past.
Right. Sorry. No. Yeah, I remember you did ask that.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down. It's best
Please.
for these things to always email support@leadsherpa.com. Though on these webinars, I do typically record the issue and look into it afterward. But just in case, in the meantime, between those webinars, if you're looking for support, just email support@leadsherpa.com. Because that we have a 10-minute or less initial response time, and we track everything there, and we'll definitely not miss a beat with anything that comes in through the support channel.
Okay. Okay. So yes, you will. And can you advise me how can I collect those things if they were these 150 clients that I have, if they were in one unique campaign, then I would have done it already. But they are not. They are just spread all over.
Yeah,
My
you
sheet
just have to go to the prospect search tab. I can send you a screen recording afterward, Sasha, while I'm in your account, so you can see. We unfortunately don't have the prospect search tab right now because, again, this new feature is replacing it. And it does have the same functionality, but we're just not ready to show it to everybody just yet. But the prospect search tab in your account, it's that magnifying glass where you can look
Yes.
for prospects across all campaigns. And you just select the lead stage you've set for them, and it will pull up that specific list of 150 people, and you'll be able to export it.
Yes, and I have created a new template there. It's one of them, the new ones under the lead stage. I have created follow-up unable to text, and I have placed all of those together in this new lead stage, follow-up unable to text, and all 150 of them are gathered within. So how can I use them now? Do you have any idea how can I use it from that step on?
Yeah, so you can find it in the prospect search tab and either export that list, or you can click right through to the prospect page itself and scroll through them if you want to give them a call from Sherpa as well.
Okay, so I can either export the list and give to sales callers, to cold callers, or I can yes, give them a call from my texting people.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Sasha. All right, there are some other questions here in the chat. to deactivate a number, how to find out what messages are related to the number, how calls from Sherpa, how are calls from Sherpa charged as well. So that's two separate questions. So there's no way, Christina, to find out which messages are related to that specific number. But when you are deactivating or releasing a number, there is a last send and last received date on them. You're on the template minute, yeah. So there's this last send and last receive date. And so as long as the last send and last receive date are not recent, that means no conversations have recently used that number. If even one person replies to that phone number, it will update that last receive date to today's date. Again, we don't have recent dates in here because we're not using this account. But if you receive one message today on a phone number, then that one phone number line will have a last receive date of today's date. So just make sure you're checking that last send and last receive date. That's regarding the text messages. And so you can deactivate it, wait for those dates to be a little bit older before you actually release them.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I love that.
Awesome. All right. And Christina, you also asked how are calls from Sherpa charged? They're not charged. They're actually included in your monthly subscription. So no additional fee for using either the call prospect button, and same with the prospect relay. It's all included in your monthly subscription.
Okay, great.
Awesome. All right. What else do we have here? When will the templates auto rotate? Ryan, this is something that we have so close to being ready. And we almost released it. It's a fairly large change actually regarding how templates are sent. And so while we finish this little sparkly feature here, it will be released in the next couple of weeks. And I know I've said that probably for a couple of weeks now, but it is ready. It's just like in this queue of waiting for all of these features to be released. So very, very soon we will have auto rotate. When sending it, oh, that was the same question. Okay, great. When a number is deactivated, can we still receive responses to that number? Yes. So when a number is deactivated, that's the whole point, is that we don't want to just straight up release a number, because that means we won't receive any messages and we can't send messages with it. But when it's deactivated, it just puts it in this kind of middle state where it's not used in your initial outgoing messages anymore. So it's not starting new conversations, but it still is attached to prospect pages that it has already been used for, so that if somebody replies to that message, or if you want to reply to somebody using that same phone number, it can still be used in those conversations. It's just not being used to start new conversations. So it's deactivated from those initial batches, but it's still associated with the prospect pages that it's already connected to. That way, it will eventually cool off. Your conversations will eventually wrap up, and then you can release the number if you want. Or we actually have lots of people who keep inactive numbers for a long time. And because they think, oh, what if somebody replies to a message I sent months ago? And so you can keep them inactive for as long as you want. Just remember that you are still paying for inactive numbers versus released numbers you are not. Ryan asks, my batch is 86 through 90 had 0% delivery rate. Is this due to the template? Amber, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I'll probably want to take a look at this because it could be a couple different things. If you know the batches weren't spread out, it sounds like you got marked as spam. If you have more than one batch in a row that's marked as 0% delivery, that is probably the case. So we could take a look at your templates that you're using, see if there could have been something that caused that, or the volume being sent out in the time frame as well. So I will take a look at that, Ryan, after the webinar and get in touch with you.
Yeah, and maybe you guys can do a Zoom call together and go through templates 101 to see maybe what did that. But right, it could be that. It could be high frequency sending, or it could be some spammy words and templates. It takes some time to look into the account itself. So Amber, why don't you reach out to Ryan directly and set up a Zoom call with him to take a look at what maybe it was. for everybody, I mean, lots of people are being flagged as spam. It's just something carriers are doing now way more often than they used to. And when they flag you as spam, they flag your entire number list as spam, and it lasts 2 hours. So once 2 hours have passed, try sending messages again. And if that batch's delivery rate is up, great, then your spam flag has come off. But within that 2 hours, take a look at how often was I sending messages? Did I not space out my batches enough? Do I have some spammy language? Again, Amber will go through your account with you, Ryan. And if anybody else is facing the same thing, please reach out because we're always happy to set up a Zoom call. But just consider what maybe you were doing to get flagged as spam during that 2 hours and make some changes. The thing that can kind of get around the spam flags is that somehow the carriers will see, okay, this full number list, we're going to flag as spam. But as you see here, we're in our number manager. We have 2 markets. We have Denver Metro and Dallas Metro. And I think, oh, sorry, we actually have more, but the 2 that we use are these. Actually, it's Denver Metro and Pueblo. These are the 2 that we actually use for Colorado. And when you have at least 2 markets, if one gets flagged as spam, the other does not. So you can actually use the other market still until you get that flagged as spam as well. But a method that you can use before even getting flagged as spam if you have 2 markets is send a batch in one market in one campaign, then go to a separate campaign that's set up in a different market and send messages there and work back and forth that way, because to them, that's just completely separate accounts with natural spacing between batches, even though you're using them back to back. I don't know if that makes real sense in your head, if you can picture it as I can, but rotating through the 2 markets really helps avoid or mitigate getting flagged as spam as well.
Absolutely.
Zach, is the only way to cool off or improve a number's health by not using it for a time? Majority of my numbers are moderate, so I'm wondering how many to deactivate at a time and for how long. I'll answer that one. With phone health, just keep in mind, also, it's 100% based off of the delivery rate that phone number has been getting. So if you have had any of these 0% batches like Ryan has had, it's going to bring down your number health, even if the number is actually still okay. So the best thing to check is your delivery rate first. If your delivery rate, while not flagged as spam, is decent, if it's in the 80s or 90s, great. You don't really have a problem with your numbers. Your number health may show a moderate or a poor status, but it's just if you've had 0% delivery rates at all going into that, it skews the health down. So just keep that in mind. If your delivery rate is good, leave the numbers alone. If the delivery rate is not good, if it's in the 50s, 60s, 70s are okay, 40s, if it's low, when it's not flagged, so if it's not 0%, but it's not 80%, if it's low, then you might want to take a look at your older numbers. Typically, you can filter by the created date and say, okay, these numbers are older, they're maybe not so good anymore, let's deactivate them. It's hard, truthfully, if they're already poor, to bring them back. It's better to deactivate them and then eventually release them, but you can always kind of test as well. Deactivate them, bring them back, see how your delivery rate is then, not the health, see how the delivery rate is. And if it's good, great. If it's not, then maybe go back and release them. So you can do it in batches, Zach. Definitely go by the created date first, I would say, because typically the older numbers aren't so great anymore, but it could also be recently created numbers as well that have had spammy language. So it's a little bit of testing, deactivating, then testing, okay, is my delivery rate good now that these numbers aren't being used? And if it is, then maybe the numbers are the problem, etc. So it's a little bit of testing to see what might be affecting you. 80, and you say you are averaging about 80% on delivery rates. Truthfully, 80% is good these days. We used to always aim for 85% or higher, but carriers are just becoming more and more strict. 80% is still pretty awesome. Once it starts dropping down into the 70s, that's when you start kind of testing your numbers to see which ones might be dropping it down a bit, but typically the newer the number, the better, although carriers also do recycle numbers as well. So it's just a bit of testing to see what works and what doesn't. You're welcome. All right, last, Charles, you have had your hand up for some time in the participants tab. If you would like to explain your question, you can unmute yourself. It looks like you already.
I have two questions actually.
Sure.
The first question is, how do you get out numbers that have not replied you to cold call? And I'm talking about not in the general platform, like based on the campaign, get out those numbers. And the second one is, I tried to create follow-up for some numbers I sent messages to about on the 4th of this month. That's about 2 weeks ago. And when I tried to create the follow-up campaign, there was no prospects coming into the new campaign. So I just wanted to know how to fix that.
Sure. Yeah. So first question, how to see at the campaign level the numbers that you sent a message and didn't reply. They're going to be your initial message sent. So Amber, if you want to go into a campaign, just go into a small one so it loads quickly. Even the text demo campaign.
Oh, this one probably wasn't.
We've got some fairly large campaigns in our account. That's why I say. But if you go to text demo campaign, I think that Zach actually sent some messages in it, so it should have some prospects. Anyways, you can filter to the initial message sent lead stage. Yeah, prospects and messages, and then initial message sent. So again, we're in the campaign, we've clicked prospects and messages, and then we go to initial message sent. We've really only sent very few messages in this campaign here, so that's why there's only 2. But typically there will be, it depends on the size of your campaign. There could be hundreds, there could be thousands of prospects here. The reason that you'll find them under initial message sent is because you sent them a message and they didn't reply. As soon as they reply, it changes to response received. So if they're still an initial message sent, nothing ever happened after that. So you can check that here at the campaign level. And there is also this little export option in the middle of the page here, and it will export those prospects in case you want to take them elsewhere and mail them or call them or whatever. You can do that. You can export those prospects that were sent a message and never replied. As for the empty follow-up campaign, and sorry if it sounds like I'm rushing, but we are approaching the end of our 45 minutes. If you've created a follow-up campaign and it's empty, it's probably because the filters that if you click create follow-up here, Amber, on the top right, it probably means that you selected different filters that don't play well together. So when you're selecting the filters here, they're combining together. So if you put a lead stage and then you also put initial message sent, and then you also put prospects who are verified, qualified, yeah. And so these two probably don't play nice together, because that means these are a list of prospects we sent a message, they never replied. We probably didn't mark them as qualified lead considering they didn't reply. So if I hit create follow-up on this, it's probably going to create an empty campaign. The biggest culprit here is the skip reason, and we are planning on adding an any or all filter here because right now it's just all, so it combines them together. But if you put a skip reason, even any, it's going to combine that with the lead stage you selected or with the other options. So now we're saying we want the prospects who were skipped but were an initial message sent and qualified. It doesn't make sense. So just go back to your initial campaign, check what filters you are using. If you need help, do just contact support@leadsherpa.com. They'll even create the campaign for you if you just tell them what you want to do. And typically they'll do a little screen recording so you can see exactly what they did to create it. It's either that, so it's either the filters that were selected, or you've already created that follow-up campaign. So once you create a follow-up campaign, it pulls those prospects from the campaign and puts them into a new campaign. So if you've done that once already, there's no more initial message sent in that initial campaign because they've already been pulled out. You need to create the follow-up from the most recent version of that follow-up campaign. You don't go back to the first campaign to create it again. All right, well, that is the end. Oh, sorry, Ryan, how often should I click the send button? Once every 3 seconds for a quantity of 100. we actually space it out on our end by 1 second, and typically that's fine. So if you just do 100 and then give it a good break and then 100, although sending it even slower may help you with your delivery rate as well. So if you do wait a few extra seconds, see how your delivery rate is, it may help. And it may help you not get flagged as spam, but you guys can talk about that in your account review when you get together. And so anyways, I hope everybody enjoys their holiday. PSA, don't text on actual holiday days, but continue pushing out texts around the holidays. People are at home, people need help during the holidays. They need to get rid of their disaster properties. They want you to help them. So keep on sending those messages out. Start the year strong with a pipeline that's full, but we don't block it completely. You can, but we suggest not bugging people on the actual holidays. They're not probably going to respond very nicely. So have a great both holidays, since we do this bi-weekly. So we won't talk to you guys until the new year, it seems. So enjoy, happy holidays, and happy new year, everyone.
Yep. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.